What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another edition of the Final Whistle Sports Podcast. You know who your hosts are. It's Blaine Spencer and Joe Ciccoletti. We took a week off because our real jobs actually took over our lives last week, so weren't really available, but what a perfect way to get back into it, Joe. With the franchise tag deadline wrapping up today, and then some interesting things with the spring training now in full swing, some interesting new rules that they're implementing too. And we're going to do something fun, aka we get to be the GMs of some NFL football teams. But how you been, man? Been a couple weeks.
Yeah, it has been. It's been 2 weeks, man. We missed some time last week, but we're right back in it. Yeah, we're right back in it, and it's a perfect time, especially in the NFL season. Off season is here in full effect. And we had the big franchise tag deadline today. Had a couple notable players get the franchise tag, and a couple players got a signing instead of the franchise tag, and got some big paydays. So we'll get into discussion there.
Yeah, well, let's dive into the franchise tag. There was a couple major headlines that we were kind of looking at with two of them were at the quarterback position. One was Lamar Jackson, the other was Daniel Jones, and how that was going to affect New York because we didn't know if it was going to be Saquon, if it was going to be Danny Dimes. But let's start off with Lamar, because I know for us, we were talking about it before we just hopped on. We're like, this is the greatest thing ever because our teams maybe have a shot now at Lamar Jackson. But Lamar Jackson got the non-exclusive franchise tag, which is a huge component to this, is you can either get offered the exclusive or non-exclusive. Exclusive tag, only $32 million. He is now allowed to get pursued by other teams. With the non-exclusive, the Ravens would have had the ball in their court, but it was an extra $12 million. And I feel like money played a huge role in this. And I think it kind of set a precedent from Baltimore, saying that we've kind of set our number, that we're not going to be eclipsing that $40 million a year range to pay this man. Joe, what are your thoughts on what's going to happen with Lamar? Your thoughts of what happened today? I think it was kind of expected, and then who you think is going to potentially pony up some leverage?
Yeah, I think you said it best. I think that the Ravens stood pat in what their offer was to Lamar, and Lamar's maybe is asking a little bit of a too ridiculous price. Could be like a Deshaun Watson contract there, and the Ravens don't want to pony up for it. So they put this non-exclusive tag. We're only paying 33 mil a year. And if a team wants to bid on him, essentially, they have to give up 2 first-round picks. So in the end, for the Ravens, it's kind of like a win-win for them, right? They get Lamar still this year if nobody wants to pony up, but if not, they get 2 first-round picks. They can maybe package one of them first-round picks up with theirs in the upcoming draft and maybe go draft one of these young quarterbacks coming into the league. I always think that's a great idea. Sometimes you get a quarterback on a rookie deal, or you can get Lamar Jackson. Look, Lamar Jackson, top 5, top 7 quarterback when healthy on the field. But like I said, when healthy, it's always a difference maker. Every year he's hurt, especially come down crunch time. Man, how many times have we seen November, December roll around where Lamar Jackson's questionable and he misses this week, and then he misses the next week, and then it's this, then it's that. I mean, that's always been the big issue with Lamar Jackson is his health. When he's on the field, he's electric. Easily, sometimes even at the point, the best quarterback to be on the field. And
best player on the field, easily.
Exactly. You want him leading your team. But the issue is him on the field. It's just so tough to predict when he will be on the field.
No, I think the biggest thing now, I feel like Baltimore also has that precedent that they didn't want to fall into like what happened with Joe Flacco again, with how he went on. He was above average quarterback, and he got hot at the perfect time and led them to a championship, right? And the biggest thing with Lamar is that he was on his rookie deal. He's been hurt these past 2 or 3 seasons after his MVP year. So they weren't trying to be outlandish with how his MVP season was, which was absolutely remarkable. He was the clear front runner and won by a mile, in my opinion, that year. But they haven't allowed that one season predicate how this contract is going to play out. Because like you said, durability. what's the biggest caveat with football players? Are you going to be willing? Are you on the field? And with Lamar, he's missed roughly now a third of the season for the last 2 seasons now. Actually, it's probably even higher than a third now, if I can do the math correctly. I think he missed the last 6 this year, last 6 the year before that. So over a third. So I think the biggest thing now is who's going to be willing to throw away? Because honestly, I think 2 first rounders isn't that bad. Like if you
No,
look at some of the other quarterback deals that have been taking place, like the Russell Wilson one for a perfect example, like 2 first rounders is kind of nothing for a quarterback that's in his prime, but you just don't know what you're going to get durability wise.
no, I couldn't agree. Like I was just had a discussion with one of my buddies about the Deshaun Watson trade and what was that 3 first-round picks, a couple second rounders, and you got a guy who kind of didn't play professional football at all for a year and then even missed time before that. So, I know
Right.
Lamar's been off the field, but at least Lamar has played in the NFL last year. Yes, he just got injured. I
Sure.
mean, but he can return back to his form. No questions about it. Yeah, 2 first-round picks. I think
It's a
the big thing's gonna
steal.
yeah, the big thing's gonna come down to the money. Like that's what it's gonna come down. I don't think it really is gonna come down to the picks. Yeah, you lose a first round pick. Always losing a first round pick. Top talent you're losing for both drafts, but you're getting Lamar Jackson. I mean, the man is a
Yeah.
legend. He's gonna sell tickets in any stadium he goes to. And he probably, if he lands to an NFC team, easily is, number one, maybe number two quarterback in the NFC at that point then.
Oh,
Um,
without a question. I don't even think that's an argument.
So, he propels that team to the next level, in my opinion. We look at it in two different instances here, with he might go to Washington, he might go to the Panthers, he might go to the Falcons, right? You put Lamar Jackson on any one of them 3 teams, they arguably you could make a case that one of them teams could be in the NFC Championship game.
Oh yeah.
Like it's kind of shocking to say, but if Lamar's healthy enough, he can propel that team to move its way up to be an NFC Championship caliber team. It's wild to think about, but it is a reality and a fact that needs to be stated out there if he goes to the NFC.
Yeah, absolutely shocking, right? That you would even think of those 3 teams as then going from a lottery team for arguably top 3 teams that are looking for a top 10 pick next year to being a legitimate contender just based off of one player. And that I think the NFC also, how weaker it is in comparison to the AFC, also plays a role in that, but not as significant as many may realize. Like if he goes to Atlanta or Carolina, they're the clear front runner in the division. Like it's not even close with how everything's unfolded with New Orleans, and now New Orleans is now and you would say the favorite with them landing Derek Carr, right? But if you get Lamar Jackson there, I would put them ahead of New Orleans without a doubt. I mean, as you know, you're hoping that he goes to Atlanta. I'm hoping he lands in Washington, pair him up with Eric Bieniemy. That whole thing, like,
Be electric. It would
oh
be
my gosh,
absolutely electric.
Eric Bieniemy would put him in the position to be successful, like without a doubt. Oh, stop! I can't think about it because it's just going to be everything in that regard. I'll get too excited.
But
But Baltimore also set the number now, right? They wouldn't pay him the 44 mil. So all you have to do, like, there's your minimum number that you can really get to, right? If you can get to that 40 plus range a year, like you're in ballpark that Baltimore ain't gonna match that.
yeah. Yeah, and personally I think he's going to be worth it in the end. Like somebody's going to pony up for 45 to 47 mil a year. It's just what the nature of the NFL contracts are now for quarterbacks. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, we were shocked at getting 50 million a year. We're like, wow, like what is going on here? But
Yeah.
we got to face the facts. Like the salary cap's going to be going up every year from now on. And with that being said, the contracts for these quarterbacks are going to go up every year
Every
from
year.
now on. I mean, I don't want to twist tides here or turn the tides here, but Daniel Jones just got a contract of 4 years, $160 million. I mean, for me, he's a below average quarterback and shouldn't be worth damn near. I said he should have got like 28 mil. I would have gave him credit.
Well, I know we were
28
talking
mil.
about it on our show after he did that one, like he had one game this year. It was the
Yep.
playoff game against Minnesota. Like we were try to put a number on him. I think I even went lower than that. I said 25.
Yeah.
Like, how is Daniel Jones worth $40 million? Like, that's the one thing that Lamar just goes right here. He's like, the New York Giants are paying an average quarterback $40 million, and you ain't gonna give me 45?
Yep.
Like, that is outlandish.
Yep. And personally, I mean, it was kind of shocking to me because we've seen a contract kind of like this before with like Kirk Cousins when he signed with the Vikings. And we
Right.
were all kind of like, I forget his number now off the top of my head what he's got, but at the time I remember I was like, Kirk Cousins just is not worth that. Like
I
Kirk
was like
Cousins at the
32, I
time,
think, at the time, something like
yeah, like
that.
Kirk Cousins to me was kind of like a Daniel Jones, maybe. He's like a guy that like he gets a couple wins here and there, but like it's nothing spectacular. It's not going to win you a Super Bowl in the end. And I still think that with Kirk Cousins and Daniel Jones. So the only thing that this contract that Daniel Jones got is going to screw up the rest of the quarterbacks'
Oh my,
contracts for the near future. You know, guys like, let's think about it like this: guys like Lamar just now, right? And then you got guys the following year, right, that have to start looking at contracts in terms of Jalen,
Herbert, Burrow,
Joe Burrow,
Hurts,
Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. Like they're gonna be
six
like, yo,
$60 million range.
yeah, like they're gonna be like, yo,
Minimum.
Daniel Jones just
Minimum.
got 40 million a year, like the average, right? Come on now. I'm definitely worth way more than that. So don't be
Gross.
surprised where if it's like, you know, these guys are 52, 53, 57, you know, the following year from now. And then you're going to sit back and look and be like, wow, Patrick Mahomes' contract is a bargain for Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, I know. Stealing money now at this point. Andy Reid's so happy after today. He really is. He is just like, ha, got my guy for a long time at a flat rate right now.
Yeah. But
But like, I mean, if I'm, we can stay on Danny Dimes for a second because I just think this is absolute outlandish that you're paying that guy that amount of money. Like, it's absurd. Like, I mean, it's only half guaranteed, right? I think it's like 82 or something like that.
yeah.
But still, you're paying your quarterback $160 million.
Yep.
I mean,
No,
I
I
think there's like a buyout, like after his guarantee money's done after year two. So, like, it's not like that big of a cap hit. But now the Giants have now committed to Daniel Jones. Like, there is no other way around it. Like, there's no way they're going anywhere else at the quarterback position.
Well, I do like that they did have the opt out after year two. Like if I told you Daniel Jones signed a contract for 2 years for 81 million or 82 million, you'd be like, okay, yeah, that's a lot. But like at least it's only 2 years.
Right.
So like that's what I kind of do like about the Giants is like, yeah, they went in for Danny Dimes for 2 years, but like they didn't go fully in. It's kind of like you're just stepping in the shallow part of the pool. You're not taking the deep dive into the deep end here. So I got to give him credit when credit's due. However, though, you know, I just hope personally they didn't like kind of screw up the contracts now with Saquon Barkley, right? Because now you franchise Saquon at 10 mil. And he
Oh,
said
nothing. That's nothing.
he didn't want to reset the running back market. So if you look at like the top tier running backs, you know, they make anywhere from I think it's 18 mil down to about 14 mil, I guess it would be.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think it's something like that, roughly.
so if they got, you know, I think if they came in around 15, 16, I think Saquon would be happy. But now he's on a franchise tag making $6 million less than what he kind of anticipated. So I just hope that doesn't give him bad blood up in New York between the GM and Saquon when you got a great running back like that. And honestly, you won most of your games because of Saquon Barkley.
Oh, yeah. It was Danny Dimes' legs and then Saquon's Barkley for everything else. There was nothing else well, the Giants defense gets a fair amount because they kept them in games and they kept it low scoring. But offensively speaking, it was the Saquon Barkley show. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And Danny Dimes, like we kind of alluded to this, had one game this year. One game. It was the playoff game against Minnesota. But honestly, we could have that game against Minnesota because that's how bad their defense is. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, you know, I don't want to keep harping on Danny Dimes, but yeah, like I said, he's a below average quarterback, shouldn't be worth more than $28 million a year. But the Giants had to do what they had to do, I guess, to keep
how
a
much does
quarterback.
Lamar get now? with 40, because Danny Dimes now is asking for 40. His number just jumped up exponentially.
I don't know if it jumped up per se because like he's still franchise tagged. Like in the end, like nobody's gonna bite that big yet out of Lamar because health wise. Like as much as I say Danny Dimes is a below average quarterback, Danny Dimes is on the field though. He doesn't
Right.
get hurt that often. However, like Lamar when he's on the field is electric. It's day and night compared to Danny Dimes, but when he's on the field. So it just comes
Too
down to
much of
that.
a caveat.
Exactly. So I think it's just going to come down to like, all right, who wants to take the biggest chunk out of the apple? But, you don't want to take too much. You don't want to be going for that 50 mil, maybe like what the Patrick Mahomes is. And, you start at 50 mil with his contract. It's not like you're getting him on a rookie deal for a year or two to try to maybe build this team up before he gets there. Like you're stuck with the 50 mil cap right off the bat. But some team probably will pony up in some sort of way. We'll hear about. There's a lot of smoke screen out there right now.
Who are you thinking? Yeah, because I know you were saying we were talking about Atlanta said they're out. Miami says they're out. Who would be the team that would be a front runner to you?
It's a smoke screen for it all. Like I think it's a smoke screen for it all. Every team's going, yeah, no, I'm not interested. I like my guy that I have on my team. Of course, you have to be like that. They're on your team.
I think there's only 6 quarterbacks that you could say that they're not gonna try and ask questions.
Exactly.
I feel
like as much as Washington likes Sam Howell, I would take Lamar Jackson over him. As much as I like Desmond Ridder, I will gladly take Lamar Jackson over him. As much as I like Sam Darnold, I will gladly take Lamar Jackson over him. I mean, that's just
even take Tua. You take him over Tua. You take him over.
Exactly. There's all those teams that said they're not. They absolutely will inquire about Lamar Jackson. No questions about it. If I had to pick, if I had to like, close my eyes and throw a dart and see which team
does he stay in Baltimore before you say the team? Do you think he stays in Baltimore this year?
I don't think he plays another game with the Baltimore Ravens.
All right, so now okay, because I think we're both now on the same page. I think Baltimore has now ruined any relationship.
Yep.
With him.
I agree. I don't think he plays another game in Baltimore, whether he's still on the franchise tag and he holds out. And honestly, that's what I feel like teams might be like waiting to see. Like, hey, the longer we drag this out, maybe the less the price is. I don't know how the franchise tag with the exclusive works if you like keep waiting longer. Like, I don't know if that like changes after a certain calendar year. But if it doesn't, like that's what people might be doing. Like maybe they'll be like, all right, I'm gonna wait and see if I can get this number down a little bit more and go from there. So
right. So who would you think then? All right. If you had your eyes closed, magic dartboard, you're throwing your dart, where are you throwing it at?
As Kellerman said, fate of the universe on the line. If I needed a 3-point shot, who would it be? No, I still think it's the Falcons. Like the signs have pointed.
You think your boys are gonna pony up?
Do I think it? Yes. Do I think actually they would? If it's the smart decision, no, they wouldn't. This team is not ready for Lamar Jackson yet. If I was a year from now, and if I was having a discussion then, I would say, yes, this team is now more built for Lamar Jackson. This team isn't ready for him, personally, in my opinion.
Right.
But as like a fan, I would love it. I mean, it shoots the Falcons up to the NFC South, potentially like leaders. Like I said, shoots them up to potential like NFC playoff team, NFC championship team. I mean, there's a whole 9 yards there. Where I think he fits best, especially, I just think he's going to get traded to the NFC. I don't think Baltimore's going to want to trade him to the AFC. I don't think they're going to want to play him. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
In terms of like money-wise, it's going to come into the play. It all comes down to the cap space, right? So, like, for me, like Tampa Bay would make complete sense to me.
That was the name I was thinking, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
They don't have the money at all. Like, they're
right.
cutting.
But if you're looking for a team that could, if he joined their team right now, they're right immediately, I think, ready for that. So I think they're still kind of holding out with the whole Brady walking away deal. That they still have a lot of pieces that they could bring in and just put in Lamar Jackson. He solves their offensive line issue problem, right? So like
the team would be electric.
Oh my gosh.
And that
insane.
But to turn it around, like realistically,
like I wouldn't be surprised though if the Jets, if they can't land Rodgers. They just say, how much? How
Yeah.
much?
No, I agree with you. Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting next couple of weeks with this happening. I think if something happens, it's going to happen before the draft, obviously. So we got, a month and a half until draft day. So, expect to hear some rumors, expect to hear some things whirling around. But people are going to inquire about it 100%.
Oh, without question. And while we're speaking about the Jets, let's talk into Mr. Oregon himself, who likes to be in 4 days and 4 nights of absolute darkness. That is the mystery man. That is Aaron Rodgers. And it feels like now again, Derek Carr was the backup plan for the Jets. It felt like if they don't get Rodgers, and now he signed with the Saints. I feel like the Saints was the obvious landing spot with Carr. Dennis Allen drafted him out of Fresno his first year while he was in Oakland still. But my question to you now becomes, it's Green Bay or the Jets, it feels like now for Rodgers. Is he going to the AFC and going to New York?
I think it would be a stupid move by the New York Jets to go trade for Aaron Rodgers. I think it would be an idiotic move. I think this would potentially ruin the franchise for the next 3 to 4 years.
Really? All right. Now you
That
have to
is my
explain.
opinion.
Explain, because
So
I think because I think it's a dumb decision too, because of Aaron Rodgers. You don't know you're getting him for a year. You don't know what you're getting him after that, and you're throwing away so much stuff.
I agree. I mean, you're looking at a quarterback who's 38 years old, hasn't really done anything in playoffs the last 8 years, right?
Right.
Hasn't really done anything. Like, yes, regular season wise, he does great, but playoff time, he hasn't done anything. All right. Arm talent's still there. It's great, but like something's just not clicking with Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs right now. And don't get me wrong, this Jets team is really young, up and coming. I like their defense. They're starting to get some wide receivers out there, but like I think if you plug in a 38-year-old quarterback getting paid $40+ million a year and potentially losing one, if not maybe 2 first-round picks, I think it's just gonna kill this team. I think
Sure.
this team needed like a Derek Carr, like a guy that's more of a veteran quarterbacks that has the experience. You would have only got him for like 35 million a year, which would have been a great deal. And you wouldn't have had to trade any picks, and you still would have had Derek Carr in his prime for the next at least 3 to 4 years. That would have propelled this team to the next level. I just feel like Aaron Rodgers is out of his prime. He's got, I don't know, like knowing him, he could retire tomorrow for all we know.
I was waiting for an answer today on McAfee. I was waiting.
Like I don't know what to expect. Like you trade for him, and let's say this, you trade for him and the Jets are a first round exit, and let's just say Rodgers goes, all right, I'm done. Like I don't want to play football no more. Now you were out of the first round pick from the last year, this year meaning, and potentially another first round pick. When you could have packaged them first round picks up and potentially traded up for one of these quarterbacks coming out.
Right.
Like people don't think about that part of it as well. Like, yes, they can still go get Jimmy Garoppolo or, another veteran quarterback out there, right, to fill the spot. But they could also look to trade up and try to get one of these young quarterbacks coming out. You slide him in. I understand Zach Wilson kind of just looks like too much of a project at this point, but sometimes you got to pony up to get these young quarterbacks. And then that quarterback's going to grow with this team, and that could lead this team to exponential playoff growth for years to come, not just this year if you have Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and I think especially with this class, you have 2 plug and chug guys already, right, with Stroud and Young. I mean, you have 2 more projects, right, in Levis and Richardson. If we're going based off of the top 4 quarterbacks right now, I mean, Richardson had that freakish of a combine that's raising his stock like crazy. But his issue in college was reading defenses. So he's not going to be able to be ready next year, but you're thinking long term, right? And it might be Zach Wilson for another year. You just have to maybe pony that up and accept that. I mean, Jets fans don't want to hear that because they know they've got a team everywhere else that can be truly competitive, which is why they're like Aaron Rodgers. And the team has had talks with him. So it seems like his time in Green Bay, based off of what we're hearing, is kind of done. But if you're thinking at it at a Jets perspective, and if you're thinking of it, Rodgers, you're thinking stupid too, right? Because if you're good, you're jumping into the harder conference. I mean, he's not afraid against going against like these top dogs in the AFC, but like your path is so much more difficult, which is why I think the Jets are trying to throw all of their marbles in with Rodgers because they think they need that quarterback to compete in the conference. But if you're looking at Rodgers' perspective, you stay in Green Bay, you're still arguably a top 4 team going into next year with a team that has now fully developed. You've gotten the chemistry with your young wide receivers. It's not like a lot of this team's going away for Green Bay next year.
No.
Like you've had that bad year now this year that you were not expecting to happen, right? With the Devontae situation, but now you're kind of there. And I think if you're thinking Rodgers, I wouldn't be going to New York. I'm thinking Vegas if you're leaving. Go back to Devontae. You got a better team there, especially offensively. I think Jets are more complete. But if you're thinking fireworks, I think that the division plays a bigger role of why Vegas is kind of slipped in his mind.
Personally, if there was any team that would kind of be like, all right, you know what? I think we got a 2-year window and we don't really know what's going to go on with our quarterback situation, it probably would be Miami to me. Like Miami's the team. Miami's the team to me. It's like, all right, you pay Tyreek Hill. You're going to have to pay Jalen Waddle. You know, the defense is pretty okay right now. You got
They just let Byron Jones walk. That's a big loss.
But like you're in sunny Miami, you got no taxes, so you're making all your money.
South Beach.
Exactly. Like it just kind of lines up where it's like, all right, Miami's got a good window right here, 1 to 2 year window, especially with like you don't really know what's gonna go on with Tua. Mm-hmm. So like if you're gonna take it, take your shot. Like Miami's the team to me. Like, all right, hey, we're gonna go in for 2 years. Like the Jets to me is just too young, and they have so much potential still for multiple years to come. Where like Miami for me is like, all right, this is it. Like Miami's got the next like 2 to 4 years is like their window.
I'm thinking the Jets are one more year away.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, I don't want to talk too much more about Rodgers. He gets on my nerves a little bit here and there, but I do want to give a quick shout out from the old Jets player who actually got paid, and good for him. Geno Smith got a little bit of dough from Seattle, good price. You know, I like what Seattle's doing up there. And
it was 3 years for what? Was it 110 or was it 130?
Yeah, it was like 33 mil or 35 mil.
That's still beyond me. I'd be paying Geno more money than Danny Dimes.
Yeah. Solid stuff from Geno. Good for him to get paid. He kind of bet on himself and he came through. So good for him.
Well, speaking of Seattle, let's move on to this fun little topic and game that we're going to try and play today. And it's called You're the GM. We're calling it, so we get to be our version of Mike Tannenbaum or Mike Mayock, whatever you want to do it, John Lynch, so to speak. We both get 2 teams. We're going to start with the NFC West. I'll let you go first. Your first team is the Los Angeles Rams. You're the GM. What do you do?
They're screwed. Like, frankly, no, they're screwed.
You've already opened the bottle of whiskey. And you're like, fuck my life.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna try to live off the Super Bowl run from 2 years ago and hope that this repeats, right?
That's fantastic.
You know, the first thing is to get everybody healthy, right? You got to get Matthew Stafford back healthy. You got to get Cooper Kupp back healthy. I think it's the Allen Robinson project didn't work out. It's time to move on from him. Try to find a trade partner with him and seek elsewhere for wide receiver number 2 value. Maybe it be in the draft and try to get younger. They don't got many picks, but to try to find maybe a young wide receiver 2 or just another complement to Cooper Kupp at that point. You got to get Cam Akers figured out this offseason. You got to get him rolling. You got to get him back to his rookie rookie status or sophomore status. But I mean, they're screwed. They're in really bad cap situation right now. I mean, that's all I can say. They're cutting Leonard Floyd. They were told they're supposed to trade or cut Jalen Ramsey as well. So I mean, the only defensive player. Oh, and also Bobby Wagner, they're cutting too. So just we'll keep adding to the list here. Like I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, they went all in 2-3 years ago for that Super Bowl run, and
Right.
they got their Super Bowl, and they knew they were going to face the facts 2-3 years down the road, and here we are. They're facing the facts 2 to 3 years down the road. But yeah, like I said, like the offensive side, they need to get healthy. Defensive side, just keep Aaron Donald happy for the next couple of years. See if you can make a little bit of push in the NFC being so weak. I still have this team as like an NFC playoff team and maybe like a sneaky like
You're lying. Come on now. You think they're gonna make the playoffs?
dude, how bad is the NFC? It's horrific. I mean, it's absolutely horrific.
That's just yeah. That's defines how bad the NFC
And
is.
I mean,
If
think of it
the
like
Rams are 6 or a 7 seed potentially.
that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, think of it also as like a strength of schedule kind of thing, right? So they had to play one of the more tougher schedules last year.
Sure.
They absolutely
Right.
sucked, right? But this
They're
year
gonna get some layups.
exactly. They're going to have to play the third hardest because they were third in their division. So I got a feeling they're going to help themselves out there. But personally, I think I think it's a re-sign of Baker Mayfield for a backup quarterback role, just in case Matthew Stafford still goes down. I
Sure.
think Baker played very well. And I think it's also, like I said, another wide receiver number 2, get rid of Allen Robinson and move on from him. And then I
Yeah.
also think is to, figure out what you want to do with Jalen Ramsey. And if you want to keep him for the next couple of years, keep rocking with it, or you need to get rid of him and start rebuilding as a younger kind of thing from there, and maybe acquire some third rounders and just kind of fill some spots right now and just hope and rely on Matthew Stafford.
It's fair. I think. I mean, they went all in on that Super Bowl, and like I think if we're like looking at it, the Rams GM perspective, they kind of knew that it's a wrap until for the next like 3 or 4 years.
Yep. Yeah. So that's what I said. Like, there's not too much they can do. Unfortunately, their hands are tied from 2-3 years ago, and they're going to keep living off of that. And good for them. They went all in, they got it, but they're going to face the repercussions now. So
Fair. All right. Who do I have? You pick a team.
let's go with Arizona because I'm interested to hear your take on this.
I'm just laughing because Keegan's gonna listen to this episode. He's gonna fucking hate his life. What don't they need is the real question. I think for Arizona, you brought in the new head coach, right? DC from Philadelphia.
Best of the best right there.
Oh, here we go. You start raving about your Philadelphia. I think that this team has so many issues, right, to resolve, especially if you're looking at it. I mean, Watt's retired. Their wide receiving core is a little bit older. I think you're cutting AJ Green or waiving him. I don't know if he's re-signed or not, but you're letting AJ Green walk. He retired? AJ Green retired?
Yeah, retired.
That's news to me. Let's see how much I follow Arizona, right? JJ Watt's gone. Zach Allen, he was the co-leader in sacks. I think you have to re-sign him. He was one of the few productive areas for their defensive line. You don't know what you're going to get with Cameron Thomas, who you drafted last year. So you're still really raw and young defensively. You are throwing Byron Murphy the bag at the cornerback position. You need him. He is the only in your secondary. I feel like you have to pay him if you're an Arizona Cardinals position. And then because I feel like if you have Marco Wilson, like who's kind of on the other side, but I feel like he's more of a nickel than an actual true outside corner. So you're thinking more of him in the slot. But then linebackers, you're still really young. You have Zaven Collins and you have Isaiah Simmons, like two just like do it all type guys and as your linebackers. You don't really have true linebackers, like those two guys can go down to D end, but they can also drop in and play safety if like need be. Like those how versatile those two linebackers are. But this team is just so bad on the offensive line. That's the biggest. They are like they're like they are bad. And like you need to like they think DJ Humphries is the answer at left tackle. I don't even think that's the answer, but they can't really find 5 new offensive linemen going into the offseason and the draft. But I think you're looking for 3 or 4 easy. I think you keep DJ Humphries at left tackle and you kind of hope and pray in that regard. You pray Kyler Murray ACL kind of heals the way you need it to, but you might not even have your starting quarterback at the beginning of the year. So that's another component that people aren't even thinking about. They need an option at the quarterback position going in. I mean, Colt McCoy's a solid backup, but he's not a filler starter. He's not a bridge quarterback anymore. So I think you're looking at the veteran market, like who's there? Not many, right? Are you thinking about a Jameis Winston or an Andy Dalton there? I think that's warranted that you're maybe exploring that option for those first 4 to 5 weeks, and they understand that they are not the top option. And when Kyler comes back, you play him. This team is such in a rebuild now, and that would be something that we wouldn't even have thought about 3 years, these last 2 or 3 years, when how well this team is coming out of the gates in 2 years where they made the postseason, and this past season they were just actually no, they didn't make the playoffs. They lost it last week 17 against the Rams the first year. Then they had that incredible start, lost in the first round of the Rams. Like 2 years that were like they were phenomenal, right? Especially offensively. But once they get figured out, I'm more intrigued now to see what are you going to do on the offense side of the ball. Are you going to go back to more of a prototypical style? Are you still going to kind of lean to Kyler's strengths and play a lot of shotgun and really stick with Kingsbury's offense? That'll be deviate a lot.
I think the big 2 questions I do have for you, which you haven't stated yet, is first off, what are you doing with DeAndre Hopkins?
I think you trade him. I really do. I think you really inquire DeAndre Hopkins, which was I kind of rambled a little bit, but I think you really have to look at your options here. You know you're in a rebuild, and D-Hop ain't going to be about that with already having to do one in Houston. Like, sure. I think you have to pony up, and you understand you're not going to get what you really want for him, but he's also one of the top 5 wide receivers in football. Like, someone's going to maybe give you close to what you want, but not ideally, right? So I think you trade him. What's your other one?
First, hold on. Go back to that one. What would you take if you were the GM? So if you are the GM in Arizona Cardinals, what would you take for DeAndre Hopkins? Like, obviously you're not going to get a 1st round pick. I mean, let's be frank here, but like, say someone offered you a 3 and a 5, are you taking it? Are you going to say yes? Like,
I think you have to. I was thinking a 3 and a 5 is where you're at now at this point, which is unfortunate, but now you're just trying to check boxes. If you get a 2, you're saying, yeah, right now. Like that's where you're at. Okay. If you're getting even a 2nd rounder, you're saying yes. Because I don't think anybody's going to throw a 1st rounder for him.
Yeah, no, he's not.
But I think a 3 and a 5, maybe 2 4s and then a 5, right? Something like in that realm. Like if you get more draft picks for later rounds, you have to explore that.
Sure. Yeah,
you really do.
I think, like you said, like they're just so depleted in so many positions. So
they're screwed everywhere.
They just need to add as much as possible. All right. So then my second question is they have the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft. What are they doing? Are they staying at that pick, or
they trade down?
Trade back. Down. Okay.
I would trade down, especially with. It all depends what Chicago does, and I think Chicago and Houston are kind of. It sounds like Houston's going to is going to look to trade back for both. I think Chicago and Houston are looking to move down. So then you're looking at, from a Cardinals perspective, you're thinking those 2 quarterbacks are gone ahead of you. You're taking the phone because I think someone's going to be willing to jump up for Levis or Richardson, knowing that those 2 guys are now off the board. So I think Stroud and Young might go 1-2. So I think D'Amico was kind of adamant with Houston saying, we have a quarterback. Are we going to look for another one? I don't think he's looking first round, though, for a quarterback, because I think he knows his team is atrocious everywhere else.
Sure.
And then for Chicago, I
Not a
think,
cornerback one, though. They got a pretty decent guy there. So,
okay, not quarterback one.
thank you. Thank you.
But I think D'Amico's looking at picks. I think Chicago's looking at picks because there's so many holes. Same with Arizona. Like those first three teams have holes all over the board. So I think all three teams are going to be looking to trade down.
Sure.
And at that point, I think if you don't, you get stuck at 3, you take a lineman. But I think the linemen are a little bit lower in this draft. I don't think there's really somebody, they're more like in the late top 10, not those first 3 picks, right? So
yeah, and if in my opinion, if they're saying in 3, you're drafting Will Anderson or you're drafting Jalen Carter. That's
right. I think they go they'd probably go Anderson because especially with all the speculation now with Carter. So
yeah, and if they're trading down, then the opportunity presents itself elsewhere. I mean, even saw something like Peter Skoronski from Northwestern, good guard tackle combo there.
Yeah,
Still in a role there. So
I think that's way too high at him for him at 3.
Yeah, no, I
I
wouldn't.
think linemen won't be coming off the board till 7 or 8.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
But yeah, no, so many issues. I think Arizona's just got to acquire picks, and that means trading down and trading Hopkins.
Love it. Love it. I would do the same thing.
All right. I'm giving you the team that could have been in the Super Bowl if Brock Purdy didn't break his arm, basically. San Francisco 49ers. But before we get started as the GM, I want to know what you're doing at quarterback. Let's even just start there. Let's start with quarterback, and then you can deep dive everything else.
I think you're kind of stuck. You know, you're stuck in the mud a little bit with what you got, and I think you have to roll with Lance at the beginning of the year, especially if Purdy's not ready. If Purdy,
Which doesn't seem like he's gonna be.
But if Purdy is ready,
Open comp?
maybe might be a little open comp. If I was John Lynch, I'd be like, "Oh, Shannon, play a little ball game here. Is Purdy really ready? Let's get him some action, right? Let's get a little competition between him and Lance and see what it works out to be." But yeah, no, I think they're from a GM perspective, I think Lynch has done a really good job lately. They don't got a first round pick this year, because of the trade last year or 2 years ago with Lance. So yeah, they don't have a first round pick, but they also didn't really lose too many players. I think they might be losing a cornerback if I'm not mistaken, in this upcoming free agency. But like they still have all their dogs up front on the D line. All of them are still on rookie deals, or if not, have signed long term. Fred Warner's still there, big dog right there up front. They are losing. Oh man, I'm gonna butcher this up. I was either one of their pretty good guards or tackle. I don't know if he plays right tackle, if he's playing left guard. I forget off the top of my head. They are losing him to free agency. That's going to be a big loss for them, but they still got big dog Trent Williams on the left side there, so they'll be all right. And then all their playmakers are signed up. Debo's locked in. CMC's locked in. George Kittle's locked in. So you shouldn't have to worry about there. So yeah, if I say anything,
McGlinchey, are you guys gonna pay McGlinchey? I think he's up for an extension.
is that the guard?
Yeah, he's the tackle. He's the
Yes,
right
okay.
tackle.
That's who I was talking about.
He's a free agent.
Yes,
Your center's also a free agent.
Yes, he's the one. McGlinchey was the one I was thinking of. He's a free agent this year. If you have the money to pony up, yeah, absolutely. That offensive line was dominating last year, to say the least. So I think if you're able to pony up and get him back, I think that's what you need to do as well. And yeah, they don't really have to do too much. Like this team was right there. I mean, they arguably were like a Super Bowl team. If if Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt, they might be in the Super Bowl, right? Like, there's a whole lot of instances there. Like the team's built really well. The team's built around young quarterback right now and Kyle Shanahan. I as a GM, like I wouldn't do too much, add a couple guys here and there. They actually might lose Robbie Gold, which is going to be kind of huge for them. So they'll have to figure out the kicker position. So we'll see how that turns out to be. But yeah, I wouldn't do too much. You got all your dogs locked in. You got a lot of offensive weapons locked in. So, if you're able to sign the tackle back and try to find a center, on the free agent market out there and yeah, go from there. There's not too much I would do with San Fran. The big question mark is that quarterback, and I think it all just relies on Brock Purdy's health.
That's fair. I think the only other thing is that I'm thinking secondary, right? Because I think both safeties are free agents. I think Ward's up, and is it Mosley the other one? Is Mosley the other one? I think it
Yeah,
is.
I would just honestly,
Let him walk. You think you let him walk?
I just don't think they're gonna have the money to pay him back.
I think
Right?
Jimmy Ward's going to be a big spend if you're going to have to pay him. He's upper tier.
I just don't think they're gonna have the money to pay him back. And I mean, 2 years ago they didn't really have the money for secondary, and they just kind of let
Yeah,
it go and got lucky a little bit. So sometimes you may just have to catch one in the draft. I mean, the secondary in the draft this upcoming year's got some good players in it. So if you could snag
right.
one of these cornerbacks, you might be set.
No, I like it. I like it. I think now, I don't. I think you're kind of stuck at quarterback between Purdy and Lance. But now with their injuries, does Jimmy G somehow stay in this realm of a situation of maybe being a held hostage here with
No,
both guys being hurt?
nah, Jimmy G's done. His time in San Fran is done. He's gonna move on. He's gonna get a bigger payday somewhere else. And I would be shocked if he ends up back in San Fran.
No, I would too, but I think they would have let him loose by now, right?
Jimmy,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's a free agent.
Is he an open free agent?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I'm pretty sure
I'm
he's a free
intrigued.
agent.
I think Vegas is his landing spot right now.
Um, Not a bad gig there. There's a lot of teams with
Go back to McDaniels.
there's a lot of different spots he could end up, man, and play really good ball for a team.
Fair.
See. We'll see. All right, let's get to the interesting one here. Seattle. You got a couple extra first round picks. Just
Yeah.
signed quarterback Geno Smith for a couple of years. What are you doing, man?
Oh, I just want to say thank you, Seattle, for signing Gino, because you did my first thing. You made it a lot easier on me going in here. That would have been the very first thing, sign Gino. I think the next thing is you're probably re-signing Drew Lock to the minimum. I think him and Gino kind of go well together. I'm just kidding. I think the next thing is you let a lot of guys walk. I think you let Quandre Diggs walk in the secondary. He's a $10 million cap hit. You let him go. I think you can find a second, like you said, I think there's some solid corners and secondary pieces in this draft that you can find later on. Then you probably let some of those running backs go because Kenneth Walker's been a home run. You let Penny go. You let Homer go. You let there's a lot here that you can let walk. And then I would say you bring back, Kyle Fuller at corner. I like that one. Or center, sorry. He's not the cornerback anymore. It's different Kyle Fuller. I'm looking at the wrong one. You probably let who's their D tackle that they just paid? Can't think of. I think you let him go too. Sorry, Shelby Harris. I think you let Shelby Harris go. I don't think he was that big of an impact on that front line. I really don't. For $10 million, I don't think that was there. I think then you look for a wide receiver potentially in the later rounds as a slot guy. I think you've got DK and Tyler pretty set up with your 1-2 punch. Maybe find somebody in the slot there. But then you're focusing on offensive line. Your interior offensive line is your main focus, I believe, for this team. You look at the guard position, like Gabe Jackson, he did not cut out. I think you let him go. I think he was like $6-7 million hit. But then you're in the draft, you are looking, and free agency, you are looking offensive line heavy, especially on the interior. Like they can protect in the middle. They've got some solid tackles that have showed some promise on the left and right sides, but their guard position specifically couldn't do jack squat this year for the squad.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm more interested about the first round, right? You got two picks. You can kind of go two different ways, right, for Seattle.
Yeah, because what are their numbers? I
Um,
can't think of it off the
five.
top of my head
I
right
think it's
now.
five, and
Because they got Denver's pick. That's right.
correct. So it'll be five, and I want to say somewhere in the upper teens. It's probably because it's their pick, so it's probably the upper teens.
Oh, let me see. Let's see if I can pull it up. Seattle drafts positions.
Because I know six is Detroit, and then
I think
Raiders are
they're. I
seven,
think you're right with
and
them being
Atlanta's eight.
5.
So I think Seattle's five.
They're 5-20.
Yep. So
Let's see.
there's two different ways you can go about this. So I'm interested to see which way you take.
With 5, they're early in the second. They're 37. So they got three picks in the top 40 there. Like that's man. I mean, you probably go best available with that 5 pick, I would say. You're probably going edge rusher
Okay.
because I think if you're too early for any of those secondary guys, like how we talked about linemen won't, especially guard. Guard's going to be really low in this draft.
Okay.
So at 5, I think you're going edge or D line. You're thinking maybe you're praying if Anderson falls or if um, Carter falls, you take them there. If not, maybe go with the edge rusher from Texas Tech.
Tyree Wilson.
He,
Yep.
yeah, he's had his stock has gone way up.
Yeah.
So maybe look there. And then I'm thinking safety. You go back end. If you let Diggs walk at the 20 spot, I'm thinking maybe you go.
Maybe Brian Branch from Alabama or something like that. That'd be a
Yeah,
good
like Branch. Yeah, I think Branch, or you go at that point, then you're exploring. Then you go guard offensive line, and I
yeah,
think then you go offensive line with that early second round pick because that's where the most linemen are projected to fall late first, early second.
yeah, you maybe look at like an Osiris Thompson from Florida, good interior guard. He's probably gonna be one of the first ones off the board, but he's not gonna be projected to go until the late teens. So that's a good pick. But all right, I'm interested. I like okay, so that's the one way you went. So all right, I've heard the other way where it's all right. So we signed Gino for 3 years, maybe to take a shot on Anthony Richardson early and let him develop behind Gino.
What
Mm-hmm.
quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you take Rich. All right, this is where I disagree. If you're gonna take Richardson, you trade down. You trade back a little bit at
But
5.
how far back can you trade back?
I don't know.
Because that's the
Because
biggest.
that right 5 is right at that range. Because like if we're talking about it like from Arizona's perspective, like how I thought a team would probably trade up and get him, you might you might have to take him at 5.
Because
Damn.
you got teams from right after them that would be gladly willing to take Richardson and probably be even better condition than Seattle. Because I
Yeah.
fully, I have a new mock.
Would
I
you
gotta start
go?
putting again.
Would
I
you
got a
go
new mock on.
quarterback?
It's not bad. I have Richardson going to another team though, so that's my other issue. So I'm not going to send him to Seattle. I actually have him going to the next pick if he can fall that far. If he can fall to 6, I think he goes to Detroit, and I think it would be a fantastic fit for them.
Oh yeah, with Goff there.
Yeah, because like I don't think Richardson's ready at all. Like if Richardson had to play next year, he would not be good. But like if he's able to sit behind a quarterback for 2 years, I think that could only benefit him even better. Like it could be exponential
Man.
growth for him. Um, but yeah, so to go
You
back
just,
to
and you do
Seattle,
the Green Bay setup and let him sit for 2-3 years, really
exactly.
groom. Damn.
But to go back to your Seattle situation, so there's a quarterback, right? So I've seen the quarterback goes, and then they go after a wide receiver in the end of the first.
Hey though,
I
why
mean,
would you go
Tyler
wide
Lockett's getting
receiver?
old. I mean, Tyler Lockett's getting old. And he's a
Tyler
solid.
Lockett's got 2 more years in him.
Yeah, I guess, but like, you can't tell me if you get a guy like Jackson Njigba or a Quentin Williams or
And
Quentin
Quentin
Johnson,
Johnson.
excuse me. Like, pair them up with
I
what's his
think
name?
I
DK? Like, scary
think
stuff.
Bro, they need a lineman, bro.
All right, you get them in the second round. You got another pick, you said.
That's true. I
It'd be
mean,
electric.
wow.
There's a lot of different
You're
ways.
going for home runs with Seattle, though.
Hey, you might as well, right? You might as well.
Damn.
I love it. I love you making you think. Yeah.
My head hurts after
Out
thinking
to the
about that.
listeners out there, man.
Oh, the listeners are about to be murdering me on that one. They're gonna be like, "Yeah, that's right."
Yeah, absolutely. Take the big home run shot. Why not? You got the pick there, so
That's interesting. Fine, go quarterback and then wide receiver.
you like that. That's a good one, huh?
And then you go lineman with that third round. Then you can
Why not?
with that
Like,
early the
oh,
third
you can
pick.
get guard. You can get a guard in the second. Fine.
Yeah, I mean,
Team be electric.
yeah,
Set
because
for the
what?
future.
I think it's the TCU guy. He's like a mid-second. Is it Avila or something like that?
For what? I'm sorry. What position?
Yeah, for guard. Damn that!
Done a
Damn
lot
that!
of the research on the guard position as much. I just know Osiris is like the big one coming out of Florida. Um, but the guard position is extremely weak this year.
It's thin. It's thin. They're really
Yeah,
thin.
it's extremely weak this year. Even like the tackle position isn't great this year.
It's a weak offensive line class. It really is.
Yeah, I mean you'll find some dogs in from the tackle position. Don't you worry about that. Like there's definitely one, two, probably three or four that probably should go in the first round.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's nothing like it's been sometimes in the past where you get like Jesus, like three tackles go in the first 8 picks. Like we're not gonna get that this year. So we'll go from there. But
Right.
yeah, um, no, good stuff. Good
That
stuff
was
with
a
the
fun
G.
segment. I liked it.
Yeah, I think
I think
the
that's a good one.
the NFC West is kind of a lot of these teams are established or like they just have nothing. Like
Yeah, you
they
got
just
two
do
teams that are
much.
stuck, and then you got two teams that need everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll stay tuned for next week because we'll probably hop into another segment. Um, maybe flipped over to the AFC West or we'll maybe stay in the NFC.
I'll let you decide that next week because I decided this week.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll keep everyone posted there for sure. We'll keep everyone posted from there for sure. So,
All right, I know let's do a quick little thing here about let's talk a little baseball. I
sure.
think what do you think of these rule changes? I think
Uh,
I think they're interesting. There's a lot of gamesmanship happening in these spring training games.
yeah.
I don't it's not really speeding up the game though at all,
Oh
but
no, I
not by
think it
much.
did.
By how much? How much do you think it is?
Oh
20
man.
minutes? 20 minutes?
Probably half hour, man. I mean, most games I saw the Phillies, because I keep more an eye on the Phils. Like their game time has been hovering anywhere from 2 hours and 20 to 2 hours and 40. So I think most games the Phillies were going like
Still
2 hours.
2 hours,
Easy.
still 2 hours too long. Just kidding.
Oh, what you gonna do there, right? Um, it's definitely shortened the time of baseball by at least 20 minutes, if not a half hour. From there. I think it's for the best because it like does cut down that middle time between like the each pitch, right? However, like I feel like they need to kind of put something into place where like, all right, if it's in the ninth inning, like instead of 20 seconds, it's 30 seconds, right? Like give these
Yeah, I
times a little
think
bit
they've
like
shortened it maybe a little bit too much.
yeah, like I'm fine with the 20 seconds from like innings 1 through 6, right? Or 1 through 7. But like, let's be honest, like when you're 7 through 9, like that's your crunch time a little bit. Like that's when you need to start kind of
Right.
putting pressure on yourself and the team. So maybe if
Okay.
they extend the time there for 30, but I like the 20 seconds. I think it's nice. Haven't really noticed too much of a difference with the bases being larger. I don't really know.
I don't see much of a difference in that one.
Um, and the shift stuff, I mean, it's going to be great for hitters because hitters that are a pull hitter or
No, they've already broken that rule. Have you seen that?
they move the outfielder over, I
Yeah.
saw.
They've
Yeah.
already kind of ruined
The
that
only
rule
the
already.
only problem with that is this, right? If you most of the time like a pull hitter's fine, like they'll keep pulling grounders, but like a lot of times when they get it in the air and like they foul it off on the left, they'll foul it off on the left side because they're late on it. Dude, like most of the time when it would just be like a simple fly ball to left field, it might turn into like a double.
Everything's in play now. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's gonna be a dangerous ball game for them over there.
I think
So
it's going to be more of like a left center, right center alignment for those two outfielders, and then you move that whatever side the fielder slides over and down, whatever.
yeah, but I definitely think a lot of these guys that were shift casualties are going to be a lot better this year. So
I agree. And then when it comes to the pitch clock, I kind of like it because I think the biggest thing has been batters prolonging these a lot of things, and even pitchers. Like some of these pitchers have like a minute routine before they even go into their next pitch.
yeah,
Like I think the pitch clock is better for the game of baseball. It's going to take a while for an adjustment. My question will be, how much leeway do you really have, like starting in like August, right? Or September when it's like crunch time, like what you said, later in innings. But like I feel like later in the end of the year, like this pitch clock's going to become mute because they don't want to affect the game that way with having to call a ball or a strike based off a clock count.
I agree. I agree. It's already the antics have already started though. I don't know if you got a chance to see Max Scherzer.
Oh,
Already
so
over the
funny.
antics.
So funny. I was laughing.
Uh,
So
like
did
he
you
was.
see did you see Greinke mess with Vargas who can't swing a bat?
I did. I did see
That
that
was
one
that was
too.
funny. Just ruining his timing by throwing some lobs in there.
Yep. So it's gonna be it's gonna be interesting, but it's also gonna be like gamesmanship, right? And we're
Right.
playing a little bit of mind games up there as well. I mean, you were kind of doing that already when it comes to pitching, but now it's even like to the next level, right?
Yeah, it really is brought to another level. 100%.
So but yeah, I think it's good for baseball, in my opinion, in the end. So
Yeah, I think it'll be real question is spring training, you kind of just mess around anyway. I don't know if they're gonna incorporate it for the WBC. I don't know if they said that they are or if they're not for the
I
World
don't.
Baseball Classic. I don't think they are, from what I
Yeah, I don't
remember.
think it is. Yeah.
So that'll be kind of a little bit of an element for those guys having to go from that adjustment back into regular ball, back into the new adjustment. Be
Yep.
interesting to see how those guys get affected by it for sure.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. So yeah, no, big we ain't got too much time to talk about it, but big weekend in golf. We got the players this week. It's the fifth major as they call it. So it'll be interesting to see there. Stay tuned for that. We had a great API last week. With some
Kitayama with a little bit of a dub there, finally getting
yeah,
over the hump.
taking over some of the big dogs coming up the back end and
Man, Spieth choked last week. You can't even deny that.
um yeah, it's golf, man.
Same
It's
with
golf. It's golf. I mean, we all choke. I mean, it's golf. Like, what do you expect, man? You got a 2 foot putt, and I miss it sometimes. And it's just life. So, um, but yeah, no. If you're not a golf fan this week, it's definitely a week to tune in. Like, it's one of the most coveted holes in golf, I guess, with the Island Green. Like, I think if someone says like, oh, like if you have to name a hole, what would it be? And
right.
9 times out of 10, it's gonna be in the Island Green. I
The
guess.
island green is sawgrass.
Yes. So definitely tune in. That starts on Thursday and it'll end on Sunday. So yeah, so golf's in full swing too. And then yeah. And then college basketball, March Madness right around the corner as well. Fortunately, I
Oh,
haven't watched too much college basketball.
you better pony up because March Madness starts next week.
I actually have I like to bring up a discussion with you about college basketball and where it stands at now. But I would like
Oh,
to discuss that next week. And we can go from there in a little bit of topics. So yeah. So make sure you tune in next week. We'll get into the more NFL GM, hit a different division up. We'll talk about a little more college basketball. I got a little topic I'd like to bring up with Blaine to
well,
see where he
maybe put
stands
our
at.
bracket. Maybe do a little bit of do a quick bracket and show what we
Sure.
got. Show what
Yeah.
our brackets look like.
Um, and yeah, we'll definitely get into that. We'll talk a little more golf and maybe Lamar Jackson signing somewhere, hopefully. But we'll see
Send
from
him
there.
to Washington, baby. Send him down. Send him down. 45 minutes down, baby. DC.
Hey, there you go. So yeah, as always, always appreciate everybody listening here. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, like the video. If you're listening on any platform that you're listening, make sure you can shoot us a like. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you want to discuss, man. We'll definitely get you on, and or if not, we'll definitely shoot the shit about it on here. So yeah, so everyone, as always, have a good morning, have a good afternoon, and have a good night.